So, it appears that the Biden-Harris zero-tolerance policy has been revoked. As a former ATF industry operations investigator, I can recall only too well when a compliance inspection I closed in July of 2021 was reopened in January of 2022 for the sole purpose of revocation. I can recall how key ATF regulatory individuals' enthusiastic participation in the implementation of this and several other Biden-Harris-led policies directly harassed and selfishly forced FFLs through ATF's administrative action process. Many of these key individuals are still with ATF. ATF's regulatory arm has been continuously influenced by politics and the very industry it regulates. But how is that possible, you ask? How can an agency with regulatory authority over a basic right we have as Americans be influenced so easily, if at all? Of even more concern is the fact that ATF's regulatory arm is able to deliver results derived from this influence. Make no mistake, former ATF counsel and senior executive staff, now working for the firearms industry in a compliance role, have nonchalant conflict of interest relationships with sitting ATF division counsel. These matter-of-fact relationships with incredible access to ATF serve the firearms industry as a tool to hedge against regulatory administrative action that would otherwise, at minimum, place their FFL license at risk. So what, you say? Is the desire for industry compliance not one of ATF's goals? There are two issues with these relationships. One, this relationship has been used to request relief from possible administrative action mid-compliance inspection. Disguised as an appearance of ATF industry cooperation, regular communication involves a review of ongoing compliance issues and requests for intervention that trigger unethical requests from ATF counsel to the division DIO, whom in turn effects that industry influence on the active compliance inspection. Abuse of power complaints have gone 100% unaddressed. The problem, in my opinion, has much less to do with the policies and more to do with the structure of the administrative action. The policies get implemented, removed, enhanced, ignored, and most recently, redefined. Is it time for the regulatory arm of ATF to go away? Or is it time for the policies to go away? Why is there so much controversy with ATF? I'm not going to blame the boots on the ground because I was an ATF boot on the ground myself for 8 years. I also spent 6 years as active duty U.S. Marine and Desert Storm veteran, and 14 more years as a drilling Texas Army National Guardsman. 4 of those were active duty. Boots on the ground follow orders because, like everyone else, they have families and mortgage payments. All the investigators, task force officers, special agents, research specialists, analysts, and support staff I was ever stationed with performed their job with the highest level of integrity and professionalism, even if they didn't agree with the policies that were handed down through our chain of command. Having said that, there are key regulatory members of the zero-tolerance policy era revocations that must have played an abnormally enthusiastic role in facilitating the harassment of FFL licensees. These regulatory individuals are key members of ATF's administrative action process that is largely designed to revoke FFL licenses. At the division level, you have the DIO who can escalate or de-escalate any compliance inspection recommendations. Then you have the ATF field counsel who, when consulted by the DIO, must concur for the revocation to proceed. And the ATF DAD who has regulatory decision authority to reopen, closed, and or revoke compliance inspections. There is no check against any of these individuals inside the administrative action process. Any executive review board above the DAD will likely already have the same intent as the DAD. Influence can flow from the DAD down and from the DIO up. This is exactly why influence is successful with ATF's regulatory arm. So, where is the check and balance? What facts can we gather from watching the zero-tolerance policy play out? Now that the previous administration is gone, the DAD is retired and working for the firearms industry and endorsing anti-zero-tolerance policy counseling of all things, The consequences of these policies have altered individuals' lives. What about the FFLs that were dragged through the process or even revoked? Or the former ATF employees that voiced their disagreement with these policies and suffered the consequences? Who's going to be held accountable for that? ATF's administrative action process is unchecked from recommendation to revocation. ATF's removal of a hearing officer at the revocation hearing level sometime in 2015 removed any accountability for the DIO's actions. The DIO holds an immense amount of decision power at the division level and is the key individual with power to exert political influence received from the DAD or any from the firearms industry routed through ATF Division Counsel. What is needed is an independent hearing officer with the decision power to override the DIO prior to any issuance of a notice of revocation. It has already been proven that the current revocation process involving the DAD's approval to revoke has failed when political influence is in play. If some part of ATF's administrative action process is not changed, we risk another Biden-Harris hijack down the road. I don't know about you, but I don't want to see that. Thank you for your time.